Good afternoon, brothers and sisters, and welcome to Readings with Regina. Well, I want to start off right now. I have a little bit of sad news for you. I want to share with you the passing of the good doctor, Charles Finch III. He was a remarkable brother. In fact, he was an actual doctor turned historian turned archaeologist. I just love this brother. And he just left the earth very recently. And I'm going to show you my books, especially this particular book, Poetry in the Black Panther Party, From Ancestral Memory, Morphogenetic Fields to Hip Hop, by me, Regina Jennings. I definitely could not have written that book without Dr. Charles Finch III's book, Echoes of the Old Dark Land, Themes from the African Eden. Oh my goodness. This book is so well researched, and it goes into the fact that Black people were the first people on earth. What were we doing? What was our spirituality? What were our accomplishments? This man goes into it in a way I had never read before. In fact, some of the chapters were even frightening. I mean, the importance of the woman, the ancient woman, her significance was just amazingly bountiful. Because you have to understand, my people, it is women who bring people onto the planet. So, what was the first calendar? What did it have to do with the rotations of the earth? It is all here in Dr. Finch's work. Echoes of the Old Dark Land. I highly recommend this book. And let me just say this to you too. Writers write books for you to read. This is why he did his research. This is why he did his trips to Africa. Many of them repeatedly gathering information to put in this fantastic book. But this isn't only the book that Charles Finch has written, Charles Finch III. Hey, I got him. I got the Star of the Deep Beginnings. Oh, oh. He talks about the symbolism between the heavens and the earth of our ancient people. He talks about the technology that existed over 50,000 years ago in the Black world. Yes, the star of the deep beginnings. Black people are the beginnings. I know very often you don't think of yourselves like that, but the brother, Charles Finch III, gives you the proof. He shows you the technology that was going on back thousands upon thousands of years ago. And there's so many footnotes in this work. You could check out his work, his scientific inquiry, his scientific mind for the Black man, the Black woman, the Black child, the star of deep beginnings. And that's not all that I have by the good doctor. No, no, I don't be playing when I run across a scholar who's outstanding and Black. Look at this monster. Nile Valley Civilization, a 10,000 year history. Do you see this, people? Do you see this, people? Nile Valley Civilization, a 10,000 year history. Charles Finch III. Oh, how I miss him already, and I know his family is grieving. I know they are. I send them my love and support. I've already signed the book online, talking and giving a message, my personal message about Dr. Finch. I love this man. I had conversations with this man for over 10 years. Great scholar. He's just joined the ancestors. And that's not all. That's not all. Look at this book. Look at this. African Medicine, a spirit of science out of the shadows. I know you never really think about African medicine, especially African medicine before white people disturbed, destroyed, burnt down libraries in Africa. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. White people like to erase history so that they can behave as if they created all historical facts. And that's just not true. So Dr. Finch gives us African Medicine. That was one of his latest books before he left the planet. So, my brothers and sisters, when you think about it, this also means that we have another ancestor to pull on. And this is what you should do in your prayers daily. You pray to whatever deity you believe in, but you also recognize the value and the worth of the people who preceded us, our ancestral seed. And I want to even mention this to you one more time before I go to the readings for today. My book, it is excellent. Poetry and the Black Panther Party from Ancestral Memory, Morphogenetic Fields to Hip Hop. I have written so much about Dr. Charles Finch in this book. I used his work. Ancestral Memory, Morphogenetic Fields. Yes, those terms come from Dr. Charles Finch. They come from other people too. But I just want you to know that I used his books, especially, let me get it, The Star of Deep Beginnings? Absolutely. Because when you're talking about ancestral memory, you are talking about what is not seen. You are talking about the energies of the earth and echoes of the old dark land. Yes, because what I did with Poetry of the Black Panther Party, I went all the way back to the ancient writing of African people, and then I came forward into the 1960s. But these two books, they were a godsend for me to be able to write my book. All right, brothers and sisters, I don't want to take too much time away from the readings that I have planned for you. Okay. And this episode is called We Are and Have Been a Remarkable People Surviving Vicious Historical Racism slash Sadism. And if you don't know what sadism is, I want you to look it up. Okay, so I'm going to start with this book, The Slave Ship. And I just want you to take a deep breath before I read this particular section, and you're going to take another deep breath once I finish. But this is history that you have to know. Why? Because it is ours. All right. This section is called Captain William Watkins. As the Africa, that was a slave ship, a British Guinea man captained by William Watkins, lay at anchor in Old Calabar River in the late 1760s, its prisoners were busy down in the hold of the vessel, hacking off their chains as quietly as they could. A large number of them managed to get free of the fetters, lift off the gratings, and climb onto the main deck. They sought to get to the gun room aft and the weapons they might use to recover their lost freedom. It was not unusual, explained sailor Henry Ellison, for the enslaved people to rise, whether because of a love of liberty, ill treatment, or a spirit of vengeance. The crewmen of the Africa were taken entirely by surprise. They seemed to have no idea that an insurrection was afoot, literally beneath their very feet. But just as the mutineers were forcing open the barricado door, Ellison and 7 of his crewmates, well armed with pistols and cutlasses, boarded from a neighboring slave ship. See, these were 2 slave ships close to each other on the water. Boarded from a neighboring slave ship, the Nightingale. They saw what was happening, mounted the barricado, and fired above the heads of the rebels, hoping to scare them into submission. The shots did not deter them, so the sailors lowered their aim and fired into the mass of insurgents, killing 1. The captives made a second attempt to open the barricado door, but the sailors held firm, forcing them to retreat forward, giving chase as they went. As the armed seamen pressed forward, a few of the rebels jumped overboard. Some ran below, and others stayed on deck to fight. The sailors fired again and killed 2 more. Once the crew had regained control of the situation, Captain Watkins reimposed order. He selected 8 of the mutineers for an example. They were tied up, and each sailor, the regular crew of the Africa, plus the 8 from the Nightingale, was ordered to take a turn with the whip. The seamen flogged them until from weariness they could flog no more. Captain Watkins then turned to an instrument called, quote, the tormentor, end of quote, a combination of the cook's tongs and a surgeon's instrument for spreading plasters. He had it heated white hot and used it to burn the flesh of the 8 rebels. This operation being over, Ellison explained, they were confined and taken below. Apparently, all survived. Yet, the torture was not over. Captain Watkins suspected that one of his own sailors was involved in the plot, that he had, quote, encouraged the slaves to rise, end of quote. He accused an unnamed black seaman. See, there were free blacks, or quasi-free, during the enslavement period. So this brother was a sailor. He was the ship's cook. And he was accused of assisting the revolt, of having finished them with the cooper's tools of having furnished the rebels with the cooper's tools in order that they might knock themselves out of irons. Ellison doubted this, calling it supposition only and without any proof of fact. Captain Watkins nonetheless ordered an iron collar, usually reserved for the most rebellious slaves. You hear this? Remember now, this is from a captain's log being interpreted. So they had a special collar for rebellious slaves. It was fastened around the neck of the black seaman. He then had him chained to the main masthead, tie up, where he would remain night and day indefinitely. He was to be given only 1 plantain and 1 pint of water per day. His clothes were nothing more than a pair of long trousers, which were little, to shield him from the inclemency of the night. The shackled seaman remained in the foretop of the ship for 3 weeks, slowly starving. When the Africa had gathered its full cargo of 310 slaves, and the crew prepared to sail away from the Bight of Biafra, that's in Africa, Captain Watkins decided that the cook's punishment should continue. So he made arrangements with Captain Joseph Carter to send him aboard the Nightingale, where he was once again chained to the main top of the ship and given the same meager allowance of food and water. After 10 more days, the black seaman had grown delirious. Hunger and oppression, said Ellison, had reduced him to a skeleton. For 3 days he struggled madly to free himself from the fetters, causing the chains to rub the skin from several parts of his body. The neck collar found its way to the bone. The unfortunate man, said Ellison, had become a most shocking spectacle. After 5 weeks in the two vessels, having experienced inconceivable misery in both, he was relieved by death. Ellison was one of the sailors charged to throw his body from the foretop into the river. The minimal remains of the black seaman were, quote, immediately devoured by the sharks. Now, I know that was terrible. So, those of you listening to me for the first time, hearing this, just take a deep breath. That was awful. White people have been cruel, viciously cruel to black people. Yes. And if you are black and you are hearing me, I know it hurts. And even the whites who listen to me, I know it hurts. But this history has to be recognized because we are carrying, black people are carrying the trauma of that moment. Energy doesn't die, it just transforms. Don't you think that that man that was killed so viciously, don't you think his energy still is around this planet? Yes. Yes. So we have to shoot up positive vibes to that brother who was murdered by a vicious, evil, dirty, rotten, low-down, devilish captain. There's no good words here. I'm not going to stay calm. That kind of killing is barbaric. And they called African savage. They called African savage. You dig? You know that, black people. They still call you subhuman. How that brother was killed is unconscionable. And notice, the slave ship, one slave ship was called the Africa. The other slave ship was called the Nightingale. And they both helped each other to kill that black cook. And what did the black cook do if he did it at all? He helped his African brethren try to get free from bondage, from a lifetime of slavery. And because he was fighting for his freedom, those demonic, vicious, awful captains killed him unmercifully. This is a part of our history. Let me show you the book again. Thank goodness this book was put together by Mr. Rediger, Marcus Rediger. He has a website. You should visit it. These are the historical beginnings of what became the Negro in America. All right. Okay, I'm going to another book now. I'm going to Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl. I know many of you will never forget, like I will never forget what happened to that poor cook, that poor seaman aboard the slave ship, the way he was killed. Now we're going to read, or I'm going to read to you from Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl, an actual book written in the 1850s. Now, let me show you Lydia Mariah Child, because she is the reason that we even have Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl. Lydia Mariah Child was an abolitionist to the bone, and she made sure that we could hear the words of an actual enslaved woman, Linda Brent. All right. Now, Linda, in the section I'm about to read to you, is attending a church service. Now, remember, she's enslaved, okay? And she is describing another enslaved woman at this church service that was just for the enslaved people. Linda begins. I well remember one occasion when I attended a Methodist class meeting. I went with a burdened spirit and happened to sit next to a poor bereaved mother whose heart was still heavier than mine. The class leader was the town constable, a man who bought and sold slaves. I'm going to read this again. A man who bought and sold slaves, who whipped his brethren and sisters of the church at the public whipping post. Now, I need to stop here because I want to explain to you, just about all of you listening to me, you have a downtown area. In these downtown areas, there would be during slavery a public whipping post where they would drag poor enslaved people, probably those who rebelled, and they would beat them publicly. So those of you who might be listening to me who feel, well, black people didn't rebel enough, the slaves should have, look at what happened to the enslaved people. Look at the savagery of their owners. Let me continue. A man who bought and sold slaves, who whipped his brethren and sisters of the church at the public whipping posts. He was ready to perform that Christian office anywhere for 50 cents. This white-faced, black-hearted brother came near us and said to the stricken woman, quote, Sister, can't you tell us how the Lord deals with your soul? Do you love him as you did formerly? End of quote. She rose to her feet, said in piteous tones, My Lord and Master, help me. My load is more than I can bear. God has hid himself from me, and I am left in darkness and misery. Then, striking her breast, she continued, I can't tell you what is in here. They've got all my children. Last week, they took the last one. God only knows where they've sold her. They let me have her 16 years and then, oh, pray for her, brothers and sisters. I've got nothing to live for now. God make my time short. She sat down, quivering in every limb. I saw that constable class leader become crimson in his face with suppressed laughter. Oh, that was funny to him. That was funny to a slave owner, a slave whipper. Okay? A good Christian giving a Christian lesson. That was funny. This woman's sorrow was funny to him. In his face with suppressed laughter, while he held up his handkerchief, that those who were weeping for the poor woman's calamity might not see his merriment. His merriment? His goddamn merriment? Then, with assumed gravity, he said to the bereaved mother, quote, "Sister, pray to the Lord that every dispensation of his divine will may be sanctified to the good of your poor, needy soul." The congregation struck up a hymn and sung as though they were free as the birds that warbled round us. This is what they sang. Here's the lyrics. Old Satan thought he had him out of aim. He missed my soul and caught my sins. Cry amen, cry amen, cry amen to God. He took my sins upon his back, went muttering and grumbling down to hell. Cry amen, cry amen, cry amen to God. Old Satan's church is here below. Up to God's free church, I hope to go. Cry amen, cry amen, cry amen to God. Precious are such moments to the poor slaves. If you were to hear them at such times, you might think they were happy, but can that hour of singing and shouting sustain them through the dreary week toiling without wages? Without wages, under constant dread of the lash. Now, people, it is already 27 minutes into this program. So I'm not even going to go to another book. I'm going to elongate what it is that we have just read. During the enslavement period, white people had full control over the lives of the Negroes that they owned. On the slave ship, there were Africans, Igbo, Fon, Benin, those from Benin, Togo, Dahomey, Mandingo, all kinds of different African groups were on that slave ship chained together. When they rebelled, and they did, men and women, look at what they faced. They faced liberty or death. They were shot by the sailors. The enslaved people chained together had no guns. They couldn't shoot back. Some jumped overboard. That's what this book just said. They jumped overboard rather than be a slave. Lord have mercy. And what was waiting for them overboard in the ocean? Sharks. Because the sharks followed slave ships. Because there would normally be enslaved people who would either jump overboard or were shot rebelling and thrown overboard. I know this is difficult to hear. Because when I read these things for the first time, I cried, I prayed, I meditated, I cursed, I carried on, as I shall always do that. I am human, and I am female, and I am enraged at what white people have gotten away with. They've gotten away with the murder, the vicious murder of African people. Now, the Africans come to the Americas, they are renamed Negro. You just heard from Linda Brent. You just heard from Linda. She went to church, sat next to a woman who had lost all her children. I want you mothers to think about that. Lost all her children, so she felt she had nothing else to live for. Now, I know I'm talking about mothers, but you fathers too. I really want you to think about the children that you are bringing to earth. Now I'm going to jump into the present era. Black people, be responsible for your children. Men in particular, be responsible for your sons. We don't need any more sons going to jail. Now they can go to jail even illegally because of crooked cops. You know this. We have elders in jail now. Mumia Abu Jamal has done over 30 years in jail. He's still in lockdown. Free all political prisoners. All of them. This country does not love you. Understand that. So it is up to us to create a new world where we and our offspring can live in the dignity that those who created us and sent us to this planet planned for us to live in. But we have a devil, a demonic class that is vampiric and lives off of the blood of other people. Well, my brothers and sisters, I'm getting ready to sign off for the day. And I just want to say to you again, always, always release some of the hell that I read to you. But it is important that you know this because it's your history. Do not turn your back on this. And remember, as I've always said to you, I want my videos to be used as teaching tools. Teach yourself, teach your friends, teach your family, teach your children. And don't feel like, well, I don't want them to know. Let them know. Do not hide from your truth. Charles Finch, Dr. Charles Finch III is gone. Now we have another ancestor to pull on. Hello. So the heavens have opened up for that good brother. Hello. So send up nice prayers for him. Absolutely ask nothing of him for at least 30 to 60 days. He's going through the transition period from life to death. But we have another ancestor, a powerful ancestor that we can call on. Brothers and sisters, you know I love you dearly. And you know I pray for you every night and every day. And I look forward to being with you again next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Bye now.